So let's move right along and get to our special guest, Miles DeCastro. Miles is an amazing technician and teacher. He is on the faculty of SUNY Potsdam, where he teaches repair of band instruments. He is also in charge of the entire inventory at the university there. Miles is the current president of the National Association of Professional Band Instrument Repair Technicians, or NAPRT.
That's it. We should really be calling him Mr. President.
Mr. President.
Mr. President, thank you.
That's right.
Thank you for joining us today, Mr. President.
Miles also owns his own business, which is North Country Winds. You can find more about that at northcountrywinds.com. Miles works on high-end and low-end clarinets and everything in between. And he's also going to be here at MusicMedic July 25th through 28th to teach our clarinet basics done right here at MusicMedic. Oh, thank you for putting that up there.
You're welcome. Here, I tried to block as much as you as I could.
Let me get out of the way. So now it's just the paper talking.
Yeah.
So we're going to be having Miles here. We're looking very much forward to that. And we wanted to give you kind of a preview of some of the things that Miles is going to be teaching in the course. And one of them is going to be preparing a tone hole to receive a pad. So Miles, thank you so much for being here. And maybe we'll have you talk a little bit about the course at the end of our teaching segment here. And I just wanted to start off by asking you about what should the tone hole on a clarinet look like before you're putting a pad into it? And do you have an example of maybe a tone hole that is maybe less than ideal for a pad?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So one of many factors to good padding on any woodwind instrument, but especially instruments that are made out of wood, like a clarinet, is that the tone hole needs to be nice and level, right? You can't have a bunch of cragglies, that we're going to call them.
Yeah, cragglies. I like that word.
Yeah. Okay.
I like it. It's a good one.
Yeah. So you could do the best padding in the world, but if you didn't prepare the tone hole, you're still going to have leaks, right? So funny that you mentioned low-end clarinets. I happen to have a bass clarinet right here with some less than perfect tone holes, and I thought just having a larger instrument like this would be a good way to show it would come through a little bit better on camera. So let's change up the angle and change up the lighting situation here. Cool. And I'm going to show this tone hole up close. So this is going to be the tone hole that's under the CG key. So this big tone hole right here. And really check out like this area. It's kind of on the south end of the clarinet, sort of near the bottom of the upper joint. So if I put that up close to the camera and rotate it back and forth a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, there they are. There's those craggles.
Those craggles, yes. Yeah, so you can imagine if you were trying to get an airtight seal on that with a pad, it's not going to go so well, right? So we need to do something about those craggles. I use this clarinet joint all the time as an example of not so good tone holes, because believe it or not, this is a brand new upper joint on a really expensive bass clarinet. So it might not sustain any damage. It might actually come from the factory looking like this. So it's just something that you always got to watch out for when you're padding a clarinet. So because that one's such a good example, I'm not going to prep that one, but let's do the throw A flat tone hole up here. All right, that one also has some craggles, and I will show you how we can get rid of them.
Cool.
Decraglify.
Decraglify?
Yeah, or prepping, whatever you want. It's up to you.
Prepare. Yeah.
So the first thing I want to do is clean the tone hole itself. I want to get rid of any debris, any dirt, and even some of the oils that are on the surface there. So that's simple enough to do. I'm just taking a Q-tip and some acetone, a few drops of acetone on the Q-tip, and then I'm just going to run the Q-tip right around the edge of the tone hole.
It's a good stroke with that Q-tip.
Thank you. Yes.
So practice.
Yeah. So it's the edge of the tone hole is clean, and it only takes a few seconds to dry. So we've got a nice surface right there. And now I want to kind of fill in all those low spots and all those craggles. So I'm going to use some thin super glue that I get from MusicMedic to do that.
Very cool.
Yeah. And this is how I like to get the glue from the bottle to the instrument. I don't want to go squirting it directly on there. That could cause a really, really big mess. So I'm actually going to put a few drops of the glue into this little well that I drilled into a piece of paraffin wax. And
so Miles, while you're doing that, why do you use that particular viscosity of super glue? Do you have the option to use a thicker viscosity? Does it matter?
Thick would work better than nothing for sure. But I like the thin super glue because it's going to seep into all those really tiny valleys in the surface of the wood. So I want the thing that's going to get in there best. And so the thin super glue is going to get in there the best. Thick would kind of build things up just a little bit. I'm not really looking to build things up. I'm looking more to fill the low spots than to make a whole new higher tone hole. If that makes any sense?
Yes.
Cool.
Removing craggles.
Yeah, well, it's the small ones, the craglets. The smallest of the crags.
So I've got the super glue in my paraffin well. I'm going to take this handy MusicMedic spring hook because I have like 12 of these things. So I have one dedicated to this purpose. I'm going to dip it into the super glue, and then I'm just going to run it right around the edge. And that's going to be the end of step one, getting everything prepared here.
So now you're just taking I don't know how to describe it, but it looks like a little, what does it look like?
Like a notch, like a V notch.
It's got like a little notch in the spring hook.
Yeah.
And that's what's riding in the edge of the tone hole there.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, it's kind of the part you would use to push a spring on a woodwind key. Not the pull part, but the push part. Yep. And then, so there's now, I did the A one earlier. There's throat A flat. And you can kind of see that shiny surface there. So I would let that dry for a few minutes. And then we'd have a nice surface on the tone hole, and we can do a little bit of cutting to make sure everything's nice and level and all those little tiny gaps are filled in. So let's go on to that step. And through the magic of television, we'll get rid of this one.
Take the other one right out of the oven.
That's right. Yeah. Like on a cooking show, when they throw the roast together and, put it in the oven. And then while they're putting that one in the oven, they're like, oh, hey, this one's already roasted. And
what was that guy? The one guy who was like, bam!
Emerald.
Emerald, yeah. Sorry, Miles.
That's okay.
Hey, sure.
So I did all the trill tone holes on the soprano joint earlier this morning so that the glue had plenty of time to dry. So you can see those guys.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an old scrap joint. I don't even know why I have it, where it came from, but so that's dry and that's ready to go. We're ready to do some cutting. And I want to cut the outside edge of the tone hole, and I want to cut a little bit on the inside edge of the tone hole as well.
When you say cutting, are you facing?
Yeah, I'm facing. Yeah, there's lots of, if I was talking to a client, I might call it facing instead of cutting, even though I'm removing material, so I am cutting technically.
Okay.
Gotcha. Yeah, just a little less intimidating sounding. So, if
give me your wallet, I'm going to face you.
Yeah.
That sounds a little bit better than, give me your wallet, I'm going to cut you.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So I'm going to face the outside edge first. So I just found the best size for this particular tone hole here. That doesn't quite fit, a little too big. That's going to be a good one. And I'm just going to go back and forth just a little bit. It doesn't take much. And so I just did that one. And so
see, a lot of the material, a lot of the super glue is gone.
Yep. And there's still some on the edge there. If I wanted to, I could move the cutter to the very edge and get rid of all of that. It's going to be underneath a pad. I don't really care if the little bit of super glue is still remaining. And in fact, as a technician, I kind of like that because I can see that, hey, this tone hole's been faced already. Yeah, if you were concerned about that, you absolutely could just move the cutter just a little bit toward the edge, do a couple little more twists, and you would get rid of the rest of the super glue. But I am fine leaving a little bit of it right there, personally.
Okay.
So we've faced the outside edge, which is great, and I do see a lot of people do that. But often I'll see the inside edge gets overlooked a little bit. And I don't want the tone hole flattened out too much. I want a nice surface for that pad to hit. So I'm going to take an inside facing tool and I'm going to cut on the inside edge a little bit as well. And so there we go.
And I can actually see a chamfer there.
Yeah. Okay, I'm glad that's coming through. Cool. I didn't think it would. Great. Yeah, so we've got a really, really nice edge for that tone hole, or for that on the tone hole for the pad 2 seat. Yeah, like I was saying earlier, I mean, if you overlook this step, you could have, you know, a perfectly flat key cup and it's aligned perfectly and it's the best pad in the world and you used exactly the right amount of glue and you've got everything set up perfectly, and you're still going to end up chasing your tail thinking it was something you did wrong in the process. Maybe you padded it as absolutely perfectly as anybody could pad it, but if you didn't prepare the tone hole, you're still going to have leaks.
Well, Miles, if I see you face the outside edge, you face the inside edge of the tone hole. In this procedure, or when you have the instrument apart like this, do you ever address the inside of the tone hole at all, or do you leave it alone?
Sure, yeah, like just kind of like the shape of the whole tone hole itself.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially on wooden instruments, right? Even if it's manufactured perfectly, heat and humidity levels are going to affect the wood over time, and it's not always going to stay exactly the same shape. So sometimes these holes, which should be round, and in general the sound is just better when it comes out a round tone hole, sometimes it'll get kind of oval over the years. So yeah, I will absolutely shape that. So I've got a special tool for that that's going to go in. Let's see, let's find one that it fits into really well. There we go. Okay, so just this, I have a whole set of like 12 of them, so I could find the right size one for that. I don't want to go getting all those out. Just this one I've got in front of me fits really well inside the big B flat trill tone hole. So I put that in there, and now I've got this very nice German-made tool. I trust that it is perfectly round. I trust that they did a great job at the factory making it. So if it's a round tool going into a round hole, it should just go in as far as it's going to go, and that should be it. It shouldn't wiggle back and forth at all. So let's check this out and see if it wiggles. It's not horrible, but it's definitely wiggling. So we know it's close to round, but it's not perfectly round. So wood has gotten into places where wood shouldn't be. So I'm going to use this tool to cut that wood out, and I'm just going to cut just enough until it stops wiggling on me. All right. Hopefully that all made sense.
Yes. So there is some material coming off. I can see it there.
Absolutely. So I put that in there. Let's check it. Just a little tiny bit of wiggle. Cut just a little bit more. And there all the way. And that's pretty much it. I'm kind of shaking the whole clarinet instead of the tool, wiggling back and forth. So I would say that's good. Yeah, and just in general, sound really, it prefers a round hole over an oval hole to come out of. I see people, both musicians and technicians all the time, will say this clarinet, it's just the sound is just unwholesome, just on a couple random notes. They say, you know, I don't think it's leaking. I think my key heights are good. I think all this other stuff is good. So often I find it overlooked, just checking the roundness of the tone hole. So yeah, it can really make just a nice, nice wholesome tone coming out of the that particular tone hole once it's nice and rounded like that.
Now, Miles, seems like a technique that is more advanced. Is this going to be something that you go over in the clarinet course that we're going to be doing July 25th to 28th at MusicMedic?
Yeah, absolutely. So the facing the tone hole itself, that's a really important part of good padding. So whether you've never padded before or you've been padding for a while, but you're looking for constant improvement in your work, I think this is something that would apply to just about everybody. Changing the shape of the tone hole, that last thing I did with the roundness, that's a little bit more of an advanced technique, but it's something that we can absolutely pursue in this course. I've done a few of these with you guys during the pandemic online, and I've had everything from a college student who plays the clarinet and just wanted to learn about repair to full-time professional technicians, and every skill level in between. So you can always learn something, whether you're brand new to repair or you've been repairing for a while. And having a small in-person course like this is great, because after we get through the basics, then you can continue to hone your skills on the basics, or if you've got the basics down pat, you can do a more individualized project and go on to some more fun stuff we can do. Crack repair or all kinds of other modifications on the instruments. So really the course can be kind of what you want it to be and where you're at for your skill level.
That's cool. And of course, you guys are going to be at the MusicMedic shop, so you'll also have all of the tooling available. So if there are, if somebody has if it's a technician who has some machining experience, they'll have access to our lathe and our mill that we have in the shop. So that's another. So if you are a technician out there who, like Miles said, maybe you have some of the basics covered and you want to get in with a clarinet specialist and maybe work on a couple of specific things over the course of the 4 days, you'll be able to do that too. That's very good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Miles, thank you so much for this amazing presentation. Thank you for being here this week. I know that you're going to be here next week. We're going to be going over, let me see what I have, corking and materials. For those of you who are at the beginning of the live stream, make sure you take the hashtag Clarinet Basics, put that into the comments below. You'll be entered into our drawing, which is 10% off any course, whether it's Miles, Orion's, or anything that we have in the future this year. We're also talking about doing a flute course later in the year, which is very cool. So if you, oh, thank you. Here, let me get out of the way.
Get out of there. Yep.
There we go. So thank you guys so much for watching today. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Please make sure you have any comments. If you have any suggestions for future clarinet topics, maybe we can have Miles back with us again if he'd be so kind. And again, check out MusicMedic.com in the education section for the information on the clarinet basics done right. Until next time, happy repairing.